but we'll get straight into our first debate. We're asking if the Prime Minister should U-turn on his decision to scrap the winter fuel payments. I'd love to hear your views on this one. Now, a petition calling on Keir Starmer to change his mind now stands at over 500,000 signatures. So, should he listen, or do you think a U-turn could perhaps do more harm than good? Geoff, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think, if the reason for U-turning is a political one, it would be a disaster in many ways because they made this such a flagship policy. The messaging around it was awful. I mean, it caused unnecessary anxiety. They hadn't really laid the sort of groundwork for why they were making this decision and the measures that would be put in place to mitigate against it. There's definitely a question of whether or not they've got the boundaries correct at which help kicks in, because it does sound like there might be vulnerable people that would fall through the cracks. But if you look, generally people of retirement age are on higher incomes. I'm not saying everyone is, but, there has been, since the credit crunch, a lot of the sort of financial hardship has fallen on younger people. And if you look at what this is going to cost this year, it's going to cost more next year. Neither party seems to want to take on the triple lock, so that's not going to happen. So that is also going to cost more as the years go by. So I think politically it's going to be very tricky for them, but the loss of faith in terms of like global money lending markets and stuff, if they pull back from their flagship policy, would be exponential.
Well, in PR terms, it's not been very good for Keir Starmer, but actually, economically speaking, it might be a fair policy when you consider that 30% of pensioners live in households worth more than $1 million. And then you compare that with children, a quarter of them living in poverty. Maybe these are the right people to target.
Well, I think the mistake that Labour made is they made an argument about means testing, which I think many people would find reasonable, to say there are millionaire pensioners and they shouldn't be getting the winter fuel payment. The problem, though, was how strict they made the conditions. So it was the case that 8.5 million people got the winter fuel payment. Under the new system, it would only be 1.4 million. Now, that's not just sort of slicing off those people at the top, is it? That's obviously going to hit a lot of people who still feel like they are in need. And I suppose on the financial markets point, I think Rachel Reeves sort of made the point, we've got to do this, we've got to take this tough decision, otherwise international finance is going to lose confidence, they're not going to lend us money. So the Financial Times is reporting, no one really in international markets was saying that. I think Labour tried to do this as a political move, to sort of say, we'll be tough, we're tough enough to take on even pensioners, a very powerful group actually in this country, and it's backfired. Obviously, no politician wants to do a U-turn, so I don't really expect them to do one. But, this has already done so much political damage. I'm not sure if just saying, sorry, we messed up, might actually win them a bit more respect than them pushing through.
I mean, the problem was with the speed and the eagerness with which they went to it. It sort of seemed like, with austerity, it's always about making it seem like we don't want to do this, but we have to. Whereas with this policy, it certainly made it seem like the Labour government kind of wanted to do it because they kind of did. I think they did it straight away in July, and then they said, "See you later, we're off on our holidays, bye." They hadn't really laid the groundwork for it. So there is this perception now that this is, in some people, that this is kind of like I don't think it is a malevolent act, but that's certainly how it's playing out.
It's been interpreted. Let's go to the phones now and speak to Janice from Essex. Janice, how do you feel about, I suppose, the policy and whether Keir Starmer should U-turn on it?
Lovely to see you, and you are absolutely glowing, and congratulations.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you. Was that not?
Yeah, that was to you,
Well, you're
Geoff.
not glowing as much as Storm is.
That's fair. That's fair. Never am.
Janice, what's your view on this?
Right. I think if Keir Starmer wants to do himself a favour, he will U-turn on this. Because the worst thing you can do in this country is go against pensioners. He's handing out money hand over fist. He keeps saying, I'm going to give Ed Miliband, who's going to ruin the country, by the way. He's the most scariest person in it. But I think he's really... They've had 14 years of an apprenticeship, and they still couldn't read the room.
OK.
But I just wonder, with Janice, this messaging that they've been trying to push, that the triple lock over the next few years will see to it that pensioners will continue to be... Has that cut through to you?
£7 a week. No, £7 a week. I've worked it out. It's going to be £7 a week.
Mm-hmm. But what they're saying is you'll still be... They're saying
won't even give me 2 days electric.
But they're saying that it'll compensate. But has that messaging not worked for you, no?
No, look, it's not the money. Yeah, I could do with the money, honestly, I could, because I'm going to sit here freezing. The point of the matter is what he's done that you know, he's gone for the pensioners. He's going to go it again. And I think he's going for the wrong people. And I don't care if you're a pensioner, and we all know there's a lot of pensioners, a lot of money. But what he has done is absolutely rubbishness, and all we are gravers to him. And I listened to his speech, 13 times he said, working people. Well, I'm not a working people. I can't get a job.
No, but you have worked, I'm presuming.
Oh, yeah, all my life.
Yeah.
From 14.
So,
and I had 4 jobs at the age of 14.
So it's an interesting thing you say that the pensioners are a dangerous group of people to mess with. They're quite a force, a large number of people.
I think they are.
But they don't tend to vote Labour as much as they do Conservative, and I wonder whether that had something to play in it. Do you think that might have?
I think you might have a really good point there, Storm, but I do think that you've got to count your votes. He's lost the Muslim vote. He's now going to lose the pensioner vote, but the pensioner vote doesn't. It's just a knock-on, because you've got young families who are going to look at their grandparents and go and say, how can I help them when I haven't got the money to heat my own house? How am I going to help them? So it really is a big knock-on effect. He's made the biggest boo-boo of his life.
Janice, thank you very much for your call. Jan from Essex, you're up next. How do you feel about the winter fuel payments being cut?
No, I agree with what he's done. I've got a lot of friends who are pensioners, the same as me, who don't need the money. I don't have a lot of money, but I pay tax on my private pension. And if I pay tax, I've got enough to live on.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. But there are approximately 800,000 pensioners who should be on tax credit that aren't claiming it. That's the other thing with pensioners. They don't tend to claim even when they should, and they can apply. So there's 800,000 pensioners that are really vulnerable to this cut because they won't qualify for the winter fuel allowance, even though they will probably need it. That's not a position we want.
What they can do is just stop the fuel payments for people who pay tax. Even if you pay £10 a month, you're still paying tax, which means you must have enough to live on.
I see what you're saying, Jan. So you actually think they made the qualification wrong. I wonder whether you agree with that, Michael. Actually, they made the cut-off.
I think that's what they did wrong. I think most people recognise that there are people, many pensioners actually, who are doing relatively well compared to the rest of the population over the past couple of decades. Pensioner poverty, which is a very good thing, has massively declined, right? It's really good that's happening. No one's complaining that there aren't enough pensioners in poverty, but working age poverty has increased. And so I do think we need to sort of discuss as a country, how do we actually maybe tax rich pensioners a little bit more, especially the wealth people are sitting on in their houses. But what Labour have done here, I think, was a massively blunt instrument, which has actually sort of punished quite a lot of people who were caught in the middle.
So do you think, Geoff, there could be a compromise here where Keir Starmer isn't left completely red-faced? He could just soften the barrier. So the barrier is if you're paying tax as a pensioner, you don't get your winter fuel payments, rather than you can only apply if you get pensioner credit.
Well, that sounds way more sensible than anything Labour have done since they've come to power. I mean, it's been a bit of a mess.
They should really watch this show.
They should. I mean, is it Jan from Essex?
Yep.
I think straight away that is a more sensible point. I also think that there are a lot of people that will wonder why you can't do kind of like more active sort of means testing. The argument that is...
I think means testing is quite expensive, so the money...
But they always say that, but I think a lot of people will wonder why we've never worked out a better way of doing that, given that we hold and control a lot of the data now. So I think people will ask that question. But I think, you know, in terms of then saying, oh, we're now going to tax pensioners more who are paying tax, I think that, you know, just from a political point of view, they run the risk of actually annoying a much wider group of people. But they always said, we'll do the unpopular stuff first, and they weren't joking.
Jan, thank you very much for your call. Beverly from Sheffield, what's your view on this one? Do you think Keir Starmer should U-turn?
He should do a U-turn, yes. There are people round by me who are on £750 a fortnight.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a week. I thought that's not bad.
No, £750 every fortnight. They get all sorts of benefits, and they're still going to get the winter fuel payment. Now, no pensioner is on that sort of money. It's not fair. These people they are registered drug addicts or they've got a drink problem. Why should we allow them to have that when we don't get it? We've worked all our lives. They haven't.
I see. I mean, I'm not sure who on benefits would qualify for the winter fuel payments. But if they are on benefits, if they've got disabilities, if there are reasons for them to be on benefits, can we really complain? Because arguably, Keir Starmer has protected the most vulnerable pensioners.
Hang on a minute. There are pensioners who are in dire straits because of this. Now, they are not on anything like that sort of money. And you've got others they've got drug dealers coming 2 or 3 times a day. They are drinking to excess.
Beverly,
and then we are sitting there watching this, and we've had our winter payments stopped. I mean, and they're going to still get theirs. They pay £10 a week
Beverly,
rent.
I think you're talking about very specific people who I don't know anything about, and I don't know the details of their benefits or their lifestyle. So I don't want to get into that. But is your problem then not that they're taking away from the pensioners, that they're not taking away from pensioners and those on benefits equally?
They don't. They're overpaid. Why should we have our benefits stopped? It's not a lot of money, and yet there are more people who are claiming all sorts of benefits. As I say, for £750 a fortnight, every 2 weeks they claim that. That's £375 a week. We are not on anything like that, and yet we've had our winter payments stopped.
Can I ask where you...
If he's going to stop ours, he has got to stop theirs.
Where's that £750 figure from? Because I know unemployment benefits are only £90 a week, and I do think lots of people do potentially overestimate how much people are getting on benefits, because they're actually quite measly in most cases.
Well, come to Sheffield. We'll walk you around and show you.
But Beverly, I think what Michael's getting at, unless you can look in somebody's bank account, you don't really know what they're receiving or what they're dealing with, do you?
They pay £10 a week rent. They don't pay council tax.
Okay, but you're
they are in social housing,
you could listen to
and
the question.
They are getting paid, and they are complaining.
Beverly,
they're not getting enough to live on. Now, they can't live on that.
I hear your argument, but you're making a lot of assertions there. You're saying they only pay £10 rent. They get £700 every 2 weeks. Where are you getting those figures from? That's Michael's question.
I've seen what they get. They showed me.
How can one see what they get? You know, unless you've seen their bank account or you've looked on the government website as to how much benefits people get. It sounds like an implausible figure to me, and I don't know if walking around your community is going to give you the answer as to how much benefits people are receiving every fortnight.
They brag. They show you what they get. They get PIP. They get money. They get extra money because they're an alcoholic. They get extra money because they're on drugs. And it's just a joke.
Okay, Beverly. I can hear you very, very annoyed at that. And listen, you're with the 500,000 people that have already signed this petition to get Keir Starmer to do a U-turn on this. But I am wondering, though, you've got 11 million pensioners and only 500,000 have signed this. I'm wondering why there isn't more.
Well, I suppose, you know, there might be more people that disagree. I'm not sure about, I'm never sure about online petitions, you know, how valid they are. But I suppose what Starmer's done is he's made his priorities, you know, and to govern is to choose. At the same time, he's been awarding certain professions quite big pay increases. This is the net effect of that. And there was a degree to which during 14 years of Tory government, it was always made that these were choices made for negative reasons or to sort of decrease the benefits of one group of people just for a laugh or to be cruel. This is what happens when you're in government. And I think the point is now, if he was to U-turn now, the perception would still remain that he had some sort of beef with pensioners and they would still be left with this financial black hole.
And there might still be a sort of negativity around it. Carol, from Mid-Glebe-Morgan, you're up next. What do you think about this, Carol?
Oh, hello, Storm panel. And I just think it's logical. In the 80s, the Tories told pensioners to wear warm clothes in the house and make plenty of hot drinks. There was no such thing as a winter fuel allowance. It was Labour who brought in the winter fuel allowance. And to me, it's just logic. If a wealthy pensioner doesn't need the money, then you give it to the people who do need the money. Why is this country so divisive? Now they're picking on disabled people. It's become very divisive again. The policy is logical.
Well,
I think all they need to do is to raise the allowance say, to 20,000 instead of 12. And then the people who get more than that, because then they're more or less on the same as a disabled person.
Carol, it's really interesting. I mean, some people are just absolutely furious that he's gone after the pensioners in general. And then other people, much like yourself, saying, well, actually, the issue is not the policy. The issue is, first of all, their PR around it and how they came out, but also the level in which they've started taking away these payments.
Yes.
But thank you very much for your call. We'll have to see what Keir Starmer does. I don't suspect a U-turn. Is anyone suspecting a U-turn on it?
Let's just say you had two callers there with better ideas than Rachel Reeves.
Didn't say nice
All right, and on that